Oronowa Zoro, a warrior bound by an unbreakable promise, walking a path stained with the blood of those who dared to stand in his way. No one knows the true limits of his strength, only that with every battle, he edges closer to becoming an untouchable legend. Today, we'll look at moments when Zoro flexed too hard in one piece. Odie Jones thought he was the strongest. He hyped himself up as this unstoppable force, juiced up on steroids, terrorizing Fishman Island like he was untouchable. But then he ran into Zoro underwater. Big mistake. Let's be real, fighting underwater should have been an instant win for Odie. I mean, he is a fishman after all. He's in his element. Meanwhile, Zoro, he's just some human who shouldn't even be able to move properly down there. But does that stop him? No. Zoro not only keeps up, but straight up bodies Odie with one slash underwater while holding his breath. I can't even do a lap in the swimming pool. Odie, juiced up on drugs, had the home field advantage, and Zoro still cut through him. At that moment, Odie should have realized that he's not that guy. Alright, imagine you're playing a game, but one of the players didn't read the rules and is just built differently. That's exactly what happened when Zoro stepped into the groggy ring during the Davy back fight. Now, in this specific scene, Zoro and Sanji teamed up against one of the groggy monsters, and though Sanji played an important part during the fight, the real MVP of the show was Zoro. From the very start, he wasn't treating this like a simple game, he was treating it like a war. The way he took down the monster that was 100 times his size was just mind-blowing. I mean, the dude thought he could steamroll his way through victory because of his massive size, and Zoro looked like an ant to him. But Zoro broke the game entirely with this one. And the best part, he and Sanji were arguing the whole time. Even while casually destroying the enemy team, they still couldn't stop roasting each other. Absolute legends. Next up, we have the fight between Zoro and another member of the worst generation, Basil Hawkins. During the awesomely animated Wano arc, Luffy and Zoro encountered Basil Hawkins, who was working under Kaido at the time. Hawkins then sends off an intimidating straw monster after the gang, but Zoro stands up to fight it. Zoro only used 2 swords to deal with this beast and successfully defended against all of its attacks before launching his Nigiri Doro-Samon to wipe out the monster. Even with how intimidating the straw monster was, it didn't stand much of a chance against Zoro's strength. Even when he wasn't too serious, the animation though really made the moment look gorgeous, as you could clearly see how strong these were. Throughout the series, Zoro has the mysterious tendency to meet and connect with characters of some importance, and in Wano 2, in a twist of fate, he encounters Yasu-san, the man with the most infectious laugh. In order to repay his benefactor for a meal, Zoro ends up in a gambling den, where he uncovers a cheat manipulating the device. A melee ensues, and Zoro is surrounded by the sword-wielding hoodlums. Enraged but calm, the master of the 3-sword style knocks them all out in a jiffy, using just one blade and without so much as scratching them.
血の匂いがするぞ。お前、犯人だろ。
Staying in the Wano arc and serving as his introduction, this incident is a perk to all of us who missed the warrior pirate in the preceding Whole Cake Island arc. Apprehended on false murder charges, Zoro, disguised as the Ronin Zorojuro, is sentenced to death by seppuku or ritual suicide. Stately in a white kimono, Zoro is perfectly at home playing the role of a samurai. In fact, the Wano arc is tailor-made for our favorite swordmaster. Just as he gets ready to slit his stomach, he exposes the magistrate as the actual culprit, and with a slash of his hiltless short knife, kills him from a considerable distance. Part of the monster trio with Luffy and Sanji, Zoro certainly lives up to his name in this unbelievable display of strength and skill. But again, it's just like him to catch the attention of the entire country, contrary to the fervent appeal of his samurai allies to lay low. It's always a roller coaster ride whenever Zoro ends up lost. Ever had an anime moment that gave you the chills? That second when Goku powers up or Tanjiro draws his blade and you think, I need to capture this feeling forever. That's been my obsession, and I found the ultimate way to do it. Let me introduce you to the anime merch, a collector's paradise. We're talking insanely detailed figurines, LED lamps that set the perfect vibe, and shadow light boxes so immersive you'll feel like you're inside the anime. I just unboxed their Naruto figurine and my collection will never be the same. They've got everything. Naruto's Rasengan mid-action, Bleach battles frozen in time, Demon Slayer moments that'll have your friends asking, where did you get this? Even solo leveling before the hype explodes. Imagine this, midnight, your room, dark, except for the glow of Sasuke and Itachi's lightbox, shadows dancing on the walls. Or a Goku LED that pulses with energy, making your friends lose their minds. No cheap knockoffs, just collector-worthy pieces that belong in an art gallery. Use code VINI for 10% off your first haul. But hurry, the best pieces vanish fast. Your anime shrine isn't complete until you check out theanimemerch.com. Links in the description. Gaku thought he could sneak up on the man and attack him, but the man in question is Zoro, and when Zoro is involved, nobody leaves unscathed. I genuinely feel secondhand embarrassment for Gaku here. The man went on about how this was his strongest attack. All that breakdancing to cast a massive skill, and Zoro just sleepily sliced it up while half asleep. Gaku had to be confused like, did I just get countered by a sleeping guy? Even his face screamed, ain't no way. And Zoro, he barely even reacted. But hey, there was visible annoyance on his face. Honestly, at this point, I feel bad for Zoro. Nobody lets this man rest. Every time he closes his eyes, someone's trying to test him, and every time, they get humbled instantly. If this isn't peak Zoro behavior, I don't know what is.
でけえ口叩いといてちんたらしやがって一刀流大神官
Alright, Monet thought she had this thing in the bag. She was a Logia user, meaning normal attacks wouldn't even touch her. She had the advantage, the confidence, and the belief that Zoro wouldn't cut a woman. Too bad, she was dead wrong. When Tashigi and Zoro were against Monet, Monet incorrectly assumed that Zoro wouldn't attack her due to her being a woman and proceeded to injure Tashigi. But right when Monet had bitten into Tashigi's shoulder, Zoro swooped in and cut her cheek, making her let go. Zoro then walks towards the injured Monet, and so she begins stepping back in fear before he slices her in half without imbuing Haki in his attack. The fear Zoro delivered into Monet's mind was enough to have her paralyzed and unable to control her body. Zoro didn't need to give it his all. His strength was enough to make Monet panic, and that's what's so cool about this moment. Even though Zoro didn't slice her with the intent to kill, his strength was still enough to leave a lasting impression in her mind. Remember the time when Zoro soloed 100 people like it was a warm-up? Alright, so imagine pulling up to a town, expecting a nice meal and some rest, only to realize everyone around you wants you dead. Most people would panic. Zoro, he got excited. Whiskey Peak was supposed to be a trap. The people acted friendly, threw a big feast, and waited for the Straw Hats to pass out so they could finish them off. Smart plan, and it should have worked, but they forgot one thing. Zoro is built differently. While everyone else was asleep, Zoro stayed awake, immediately realizing something was off. And when the town full of bounty hunters tried to jump him, instead of running or calling for help, he just fought all of them alone. Not 10, not 20, over 100 bounty hunters. All of them came at him at once, and Zoro just cut through them like it was nothing. Swords, fists, ambushes, it really didn't matter. He was too fast, too strong, and way too entertained. Okay, so I need you to remember this. Every time Luffy yells, "Oi, Zoro!" someone or something is about to have an extremely bad day. I honestly get the feeling Zoro would find a way to cut space and time if Luffy asked him to. This happened during the Enies lobby arc when Zoro and the gang were on Rocket Man chasing after the puffing Tom. There was just one little problem. Another train was coming right at them on the same tracks. My man Zoro just pulled out his swords, took a stance, and sliced that thing clean in half. Let's break this down. Zoro cut through an entire train, a moving train made of metal, on water. That's not just a flex, that's a physics-defying, logic-breaking, pure disrespectful show of strength. Everyone around him had the same reaction. Did he just cut a whole train? Even Sanji, who never misses a chance to roast Zoro, had to be impressed. If you look up badass, you'll definitely see a picture of Zoro. Zoro is one of my favorite characters in One Piece. And if he's one of yours as well, then give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. Okay? Thank you. Swordsman duels in One Piece are always hype. Two warriors clashing blades, testing their skill and strength. It's the kind of fight that gets people talking, and when Zoro ran into Captain T-Bone, we were ready for an epic showdown. T-Bone himself was a marine who had significant mastery over the sword, having enough prowess to launch flying slashes from the force of his cuts. His nickname was the Ship Cutter, since his cuts could easily slice large ships. During the Water 7 arc, T-Bone had some further notable feats of strength, one of which was him cutting down a Sea King in one blow. You can see how strong T-Bone seems to be, but this wasn't enough to face off against the Straw Hat swordsman. During their fight, Zoro destroyed T-Bone's blade and knocked him into the sea with force. The moment showed that Zoro wasn't someone to be taken lightly. Zoro's fight with Killer kept us on the edge of our seats. I'm not even exaggerating. Letting Zoro have 3 blades is pretty much like killing John Wick's dog. You know the anime fight is going to be good when the floor starts turning into cubes. Even at his lowest, Zoro wasn't looking forward to giving up against Killer. With his swords taken, he had no choice but to fight using his one blade and a random scythe he found in mid-battle. Even with the odds stacked against him, he adapted instantly. Now, Killer was no ordinary fighter. He had his quirks. He even managed to land a clean hit on Zoro, but that barely slowed him down. Zoro countered with a one-sword style onigiri, using the scythe in his mouth as if it were a normal weapon. The moment he struck, it was over. Killer collapsed, completely defeated. Even after winning, Zoro showed no concern, casually pulling out the scythe and moving on. Our man was still leagues ahead. 鋼鉄音を切る力。一体何をした？聞こえるぞ。あいつの鋼鉄の呼吸。刀に意志が伝わる。一刀流居合獅子孫孫アトミックスパート Zoro vs Mr. One is yet another fight where Zoro solidifies his role as an epic swordsman even more. Mr. One, also known as Daz Bones, had a devil fruit that turned his entire body into steel. Normal swords couldn't cut him, and every attack bounced right off him. Zoro was getting slashed, crushed, and thrown around like a ragdoll, but instead of backing down, he did what Zoro does best, kept getting back up. And then the legendary moment happened. After taking a brutal beating, Zoro had an epiphany. He calmed his mind, focused, and suddenly he could hear the breath of things. In that instant, he learned how to cut only what he wanted to cut. With that realization, he delivered one clean slash. Mr. One, the man who bragged about being invincible to swords, got cut down in an instant. Zoro cutting through steel is just one of the biggest steps of becoming the world's greatest swordsman, thanks to hard work, training, and having new powerful swords that someone else had used.
九山八海千集まって商戦世界ひれぬものなし三刀流奥義一大三千
Remember the time when Zoro turned into a giant in a joke? Let's talk about it. Pika was considered one of the top executives of the Don Quixote pirates, serving as the leader of the Pika army. He possesses the power of the stone fruit, which allowed him to manipulate stone, granting him immense strength and the ability to reshape terrain at will. Pika demonstrated considerable combat prowess during the Dressrosa arc, creating massive stone structures and launching devastating attacks. He was literally almost the size of a city, but that didn't mean too much to Zoro. After spending quite some time chasing after Pika's actual body, Zoro launched towards Pika and ended up cutting the stone behemoth right at the waist with his three-sword style, shocking every onlooker at the feet. No one could possibly imagine that Zoro could cut something so huge, so the moment stuck with everyone and showed how strong Zoro had become after the time skip. Now, this is one of the best Zoro fights in the whole series. It was the time when Zoro took an entire dojo just because he could. If you eliminate the fantasy aspect like Haki, this fight still comes as a superb demonstration of the abilities that Zoro has acquired along his journey. The calm and elegant movement as he dodges attacks, the precise timing of his counters, how he moves around to close the distance between his opponents to compensate for the short reach of his initial weapon, how he gracefully steals the sword from the belt of his enemy and uses it to cut down the approaching soldiers. In this scene, Zoro truly looks like a master swordsman who survived countless battles. Mihawk taught Zoro so well to disrespect his enemies with a butter knife. By the time it was over, Zoro was standing tall, barely breaking a sweat. Another day, another group of swordsmen learned why picking a fight with Roronoa Zoro is always a bad idea. Imagine trying to wield a sword that actively tries to kill you. That's exactly what happened when Zoro picked up Enma. This wasn't just any blade, it was Oden's legendary sword, a weapon that demanded respect and sucked up all of Zoro's haki like a greedy vacuum. The first time he tried using it, his arm nearly shriveled up. The sword didn't just want to be held, it wanted to test him. And Zoro, well, Zoro doesn't fail tests. Since Zoro thought of Enma as just a wild and cursed sword, he wasn't able to utilize its potential. He unlocked his conqueror's haki and tamed his sword by changing his perspective and realizing he was worthy of being the master of all of his swords. Beautiful message. Gotta love Oda, man. Fast forward to the rooftop battle in Wano now. Zoro was already pushing his limits, but he still hadn't fully tamed Enma. It kept draining his haki, pushing him to the brink, but then suddenly something clicked. Zoro stopped fearing the sword and started dominating it. The moment he fully unleashes Enma, his conqueror's haki flared up, shaking the battlefield. This wasn't just Zoro using a strong sword anymore, this was Zoro proving he was worthy of it. You ever seen a guy so stubborn that even death gives up on him? That's Roronoa Zoro in Onigashima. The man was already half dead, barely standing, and fighting a lunatic fire-breathing pterodon with an attitude problem. Any sane person would take a breather, maybe reconsider their life choices, but Zoro? Nah. He took one look at his cursed, haki-devouring sword trying to kill him and said, fine, I'll just become the king of hell then. Because obviously, the logical response to almost dying is to level up into a walking myth. So now, with Conqueror's haki-infused blades and an aura so menacing, it probably made King rethink his career choices. Zoro casually slices through explosions, ignores gravity, and one-shots Kaido's top guy like it's just another Tuesday. Ask this guy for directions, and you'll end up in a completely different country. But the moment you ask him to take down an enemy, boom, he ascends to the king of hell. You see, Zoro wasn't even supposed to be Kaido's problem. Luffy was the main guy, right? Wrong, because the moment Zoro gets serious, Kaido realized he was dealing with a different kind of monster. With Conqueror's haki flowing through his blades, Zoro unleashed a full-power attack. Ashura, Dead Man's Game. This wasn't just a flashy move, he straight up scarred Kaido. Yes, the same Kaido who tanked island-destroying attacks like they were mosquito bites felt Zoro's slash. Kaido's reaction? Surprise. Zoro is one of the few who could seriously injure a freaking dragon. No devil fruit needed, just pure swordsmanship coated with supreme haki. Everybody in this anime is one thing, but Zoro is something else. That's a man right there. You can't help but respect him. Sure, Zoro collapsed right after, but let's be real. Leaving a mark on the world's strongest creature is a flex only Zoro could pull off.
何もかも無事なわけねえ。あの野郎はどこだ。いた。おい、あの七部会どこに。なんだこの血の量は。おい、おめえ生きてんのか。ここで何があった。何もなかった。
Some people flex with muscles, some flex with words. Zoro flexes with pain tolerance. And not just any pain, we're talking about soul-crushing, body-breaking, life-ending agony. Yet, after experiencing the worst suffering imaginable, he just stood there, covered in blood, and said, nothing happened. This moment went down in Thriller Bark, right after the Straw Hats barely survived their fight with Gecko Moria. Just when they thought they could breathe, Bartholomew Kuma pulled up, and things got way worse. Kuma, a literal walking WMD, was about to kill Luffy, who was already unconscious. Zoro wasn't having it. He stepped up and offered his own life instead. Sanji tried to do the same, but Zoro knocked him out because he knew only he could handle it. Kuma then transferred all of Luffy's pain, enough to kill any normal person, and Zoro took every ounce of it without hesitation. And when Sanji later found him, standing in a pool of his own blood, shaking but unbroken, and asked what happened, nothing happened. And with that, we're wrapping up this list of the moments when Zoro flexed too hard in One Piece. If you think I've missed any of your favorite moments, then don't forget to mention that in the comments. If you want to watch something more, check this video out right here. Alright, see you soon.